Hello, and welcome to Vision Denial and World Watch 2022. My name is Sam, and if those of you who are new here, I have watched every single playoff of 2022. Yes, every single one of them, even that one. Notably, this particular series we were covering the summer of 2022 on our anticipation and preparation for Worlds. And this you have stumbled upon, or you are a regular subscriber and watcher, to the Meet the Teams portion, where I will take a look at every 24 team, their strengths, weaknesses, playstyles, notable quirks, interesting things to look ahead, all in the attempts to at least teach some people who don't watch certain regions what to expect from their teams, or from the teams that are going. That said, there are two caveats to really put forward. First caveat: a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about are data-driven. I will put a link down below to the Google Docs of all of the data I have aggregated all in one nice spot. All of the data comes from the LoL fandom, Wikipedia, and from the goal.gg website, both of which have very different focuses to their data points, and both are necessary for these kinds of videos to work. That said, there's a limitation to some of this data because the LPL doesn't send their data as consistently as the other regions, and this is something you'll find with any particular data point for LoL Esports globally. The LPL will still be missing some things regarding plates, Drakes at 15 minutes, and Heralds. A lot of the early game is not there. That and everything relating to vision. Second thing that I have to point out, a lot of the emerging regions, specifically Oceania, Turkey, Brazil, Latin America, and Japan, their teams will have some inflated stats in their favor. That being in mind, when we're looking at their stats, a lot of them will look good, notably the Chiefs and Detonation Focus Me. So some of the stats for every team has to be taken with a grain of salt of either being maybe stronger than expected or weaker than expected by quite a bit, notably because of this kind of inflation of statistics. When you're studying data, this is the kind of adjustments you need to do. That said, team-based data will look skewed. Individual data for each player's less so, because of the kinds of data points that they keep track of. All of that to say is that a lot of the notes that I've taken are using data points that have been collected that you can all enjoy for free down below, or in the various websites that I mentioned, but taking into account a lot of the personal notes that I use in conjunction with this data to show you what to expect with these teams. Without further ado, let's take a look at this video's team. I don't know. This is a pre-recorded message. Let's take a look. Meet Top Esports. Top Esports is the second seed out of the LPL and the 9th team to qualify for Worlds after beating Edward Gaming in the rematch 3-2 in the playoff lower bracket. Let's meet their coaches. Crescent has been part of the coaching scene since 2014, being part of teams like LGD, Oh My God, Fun Plus Phoenix, before joining Top Esports in the summer of 2019. Big 97, who unfortunately I do not have a photo of, has been part of the coaching staff since the summer of 2019 also, and both have been staying with the organization since. Their strong approach to team fighting and late game neutral objective controls leads Top Esports sometimes to some of the weakest early game approaches at all. In fact, they have the weakest first blood rate out of every team that has qualified at Worlds. Now, granted, this early game weakness is only relative to whoever their opponent is, and I think that's slightly worse technically on paper. I would rather a team that's consistently bad early game but rocks late game than a team that is sometimes okay early game and still requires late game to win. There's an interesting application here in which top esports find interesting avenues to being great at vision control when they're ahead, great at Baron control when they're ahead, hell, side lane control when they're ahead. They're incredibly creative. But when behind, almost all of that falls apart. That's a crutch for top esports who had to fight tooth and nail for their second seed. Meet top esports top laner, Wayward. Wayward's been part of the organization since 2019, mostly being part of the challenger scene, and having joined the main roster in 2022. So technically, this is his rookie year. Good shit. Wayward here shows to be about a fairly average top laner compared to many of his contemporaries. And primarily, that's mostly because of his stats being super accordionized, where they stretch back and forth, due to the fact that he is a split pusher first, team fighter second. His low kill participation compared to many of his contemporaries indicates primarily that he'll fight, just not close to his team. Which is really bizarre given the kinds of champions that are in his roster. He has a lot of split pushers, but one of his most played is still Sejuani. He has this weird dichotomy of identity going on with the way that he plays, where he clearly wants to participate in any given team fight, but he plays weak side and he plays split push. The team leaves him to his devices because he can find time to collect gold, and he does. But he may get punished, if not isolated even more, if not given at least some time and resources to really get moving. Meet top esports jungler Tian. Tian made his debut with Suning in the 2018 season before finally joining Fun Plus Phoenix in the 2019 season, where he won his first world championship. I say first, his only, because you can tell he's really hungry. Having been with Fun Plus for so long, he joins top esports in 2022, and to pretty solid success. Granted, his stats really indicate that he's a fairly average jungler, if not slightly below it in a lot of respects compared to the rest of them that are coming to Worlds. But he does provide one thing: space and engage opportunities. Tian may have a smaller champion like a champion pool compared to the other junglers, but the champion pool that he has here primarily involve giving space and really applying pressure where needed and setting up a lot of engage opportunities. I do say that he may not be one of the junglers to watch this year, but I'd never really discount any players who have been world champions previously returning to the stage. Repeat title holders, or title holders who are repeat visitors within the international grandeur of it all, tend to have this slight clutch factor to them. And Tian has always had that particular clutch factor with his team. But it's usually during the late game, and so a lot of his stats are more mimicking the fact that their games go for very long stretches of time, and the lack of proactivity is really going to hurt him. Meet top esports mid laner, Knight. Knight has been part of the scene since 2017, having been part of the Suning lineup for a brief moment before coming back to the Top Sports Gaming and then joining top esports in the 2019 summer season. And honestly, Knight is one of the mid laners to watch. While many of his stats are above average for the most part, his notable thing here is his kill share. While his kill participation is a little bit lower than average, than what you would expect of somebody who's accumulating this much gold, he shows that he is a very kill-hungry mid laner. He will find any angles to get you, and while many others in his role, his contemporaries, will use the kind of champion pool that he has to mostly play off zoning, setting up team fights, and really controlling the space, he's going to kill you. He finds an angle in which he'll kill you, you're dead. It'll just happen. And he may not be very lane-centric killer, but he will do so at any given point of the game. He has collected such a ridiculous appetite for this that the fact that his most played or most of his most played champions are assassins or reset targets, just says everything you need to know. He doesn't play Ari the utility mage. He plays Ari the assassin. And people better look out, because top esports may not be consistent with vision, but their vision denial keeps Knight ready to pounce. Meet top esports bottom laner, JackeyLove. Many international fans will know JackeyLove primarily for his World Championship title in 2018, coming out of nowhere. In fact, I believe that was his rookie year, technically. And then eventually he joins top esports in the summer of 2020 into, I'll think, a lot more comfortability regarding his playstyle. JackeyLove is mostly fairly middling across the contemporaries of bot lane. Granted, this is a stacked role, but the thing that's notable for me here is the kinds of champions he plays. While most will have Zeri under their lineup or Lucian, most of them will also have Sivir, Aphelios, Jinx. They'll have like team fighting ones. Champions that require a lot of reset, a lot of space and like zoning. But this is 3 duelists. Ezreal, Lucian, and Zeri are mostly duelists in their right that can team fight effectively, but excel in situations where it's small skirmishes. So him not having the highest kill participation or the highest necessarily like gold per minute, CS per minute, KDA, any of that is more indicative of the fact that he is thirsty to fight and out, like just skill check you at any given point. And it's honestly the strongest MO for JackeyLove. A player known for dueling first and foremost, coming into Worlds hungry for another title. Him being a duelist first, and that's what distinguishes him further from the other bot laners who will be playing more or less around the same kind of team fight centered meta. That'll be fairly useful if applied correctly. Meet top esports support player, Mark. Mark has been in the scene since the summer of 2018 with Sino Dragon and had changed spots with LGD Gaming and BDBD Gaming before settling in the 2022 season with top esports. And honestly, Mark is super interesting as a player. He's got a lot more engage in melee supports under his belt than enchanters like all of his other counterparts. And this causes some really interesting dynamics. He has a fairly high KDA compared to a lot of the other engaged support connoisseurs, and a fairly high gold income compared to his other contemporaries as well. He does a lot with his ability to help his team create space and zone, and he's primarily the main reason why they do so well in terms of vision denial. Mark is honestly such a nice breath of fresh air for top esports, allowing them to really cohesively find their mark in terms of how to skirmish around neutral objectives, and yet create a nice amount of space and identity for himself. He's not so flexible that it's crazy with like a lot of champions, but the amount of champions he does play has enough unique variety amongst them that it doesn't feel like the same as all of the other support players. And granted, that's totally fine. I like watching Mark play. He's got this nice, I'm going to protect everyone vibe. It's really nice. All in all, top esports is definitely worth the second seed. In fact, I was mostly expecting them to take the first seed during the LPL summer playoffs, and was really surprised that they usually just miss the mark by this much. Literally 5-game series on both accounts, and literally just mispositioning by this much. Any little misstep, game of inches. And I largely prefer the idea of, or largely prefer the playstyle of top esports versus many of the other LPL teams as a way of like how they separate their opponents, how they really like create macro decisions that are very hard to choose in a moment-to-moment basis. But the fact that they play so slow, the fact that they're inconsistent in their early game approaches, that they are never guaranteed to actually have all of the tools to properly play out their late game dreams, leaves me here going, well, we got an incredibly, a stupidly awesome late game team, guys, but when are we going to get there? We can't keep doing these 45 to 55-minute games. Can't happen. Really can't. Because, like, you look down the list of these players, and holy crap, this is like a superstar team. Like, this is a crazy solid team. I just wish that they were more consistent at their application of the early game. That's pretty much it. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure this is a top 4 team. I would see this team being a potential winner of the whole thing. But those are my thoughts from what I've watched and all of the games that I've actually analyzed for all of the playoffs around the world and the stats that I have over here. I want to hear what you guys have to think. What are your thoughts in the comments down below? Do you think that top esports are like one of the favorites to win the tournament? Do you think they're a little bit overhyped? Do you have worries about their inconsistencies and the fact that they take so long to actually get anything done? I'd love to hear it. Anything and everything down below. And if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, I've got a bunch of little things going to be popping on the side here. Just either videos about all of the playoffs that I watched, all of my thoughts during what has happened, because I have watched all of the playoffs, the other teams who have qualified, and how Top Esports got here. A dedicated video about the LPL playoffs. And if you like this kind of content, leave a like and subscribe. I really appreciate all of you who watch. It means a lot to me. It feels so good, so warm right here in my heart. And with that, I'll see you next time.